An hour later, Cuthbert put a pan of bread into the oven and fell to speculating on what the surgeons could do with his feet when he got back. Home did not seem so very far away now. Weatherby was rummaging in the cache. Of a sudden, he raised a whirlwind of blasphemy, which in turn ceased with startling abruptness. The other man had robbed his sugar sack. Still, things might have happened differently had not the two dead men come out from under the stones and hushed the hot words in his throat. They led him quite gently from the cache, which he forgot to close. That consummation was reached. That something they had whispered to him in his dreams was about to happen. They guided him gently, very gently, to the woodpile, where they put the axe in his hands. Then they helped him shove open the cabin door, and he felt sure they shut it after him. At least he heard it slam, and the latch fall sharply into place. And he knew they were waiting just without, waiting for him to do his task. "Carter, I say, Carter." Percy Cuthbert was frightened at the look on the clerk's face, and he made haste to put the table between them. Carter Weatherby followed, without haste and without enthusiasm. There was neither pity nor passion in his face, but rather the patient, stolid look of one who has certain work to do and goes about it methodically. "I say, what's the matter?" The clerk dodged back, cutting off his retreat to the door, but never opening his mouth. "I say, Carter, I say, let's talk. There's a good chap." The Master of Arts was thinking rapidly now, shaping a skillful flank movement on the bed where his Smith & Wesson lay. Keeping his eyes on the madman, he rolled backward on the bunk, at the same time clutching the pistol. "Carter." The powder flashed full in Weatherby's face, but he swung his weapon and leaped forward. The axe bit deeply at the base of the spine, and Percy Cuthbert felt all consciousness of his lower limbs leave him. Then the clerk fell heavily upon him, clutching him by the throat with feeble fingers. The sharp bite of the axe had caused Cuthbert to drop the pistol, and as his lungs panted for release, he fumbled aimlessly for it among the blankets. Then he remembered. He slid a hand up the clerk's belt to the sheath knife, and they drew very close to each other in that last clinch. Percy Cuthbert felt his strength leave him. The lower portion of his body was useless. The inert weight of Weatherby crushed him and pinned him there like a bear under a trap. The cabin became filled with a familiar odor, and he knew the bread to be burning. Yet what did it matter? He would never need it. And there were all of 6 cupfuls of sugar in the cache. If he had foreseen this, he would not have been so saving the last several days. Would the wind vane ever move? It might even be veering now. Why not? Had he not seen the sun today? He would go and see. No, it was impossible to move. He had not thought the clerk so heavy a man. How quickly the cabin cooled. The fire must be out. The cold was forcing in. It must be below 0 already, and the ice creeping up the inside of the door. He could not see it, but his past experience enabled him to gauge its progress by the cabin's temperature. The lower hinge must be white ere now. Would the tale of this ever reach the world? How would his friends take it? They would read it over their coffee, most likely, and talk it over at the clubs. He could see them very clearly. "Poor old Cuthbert," they murmured. "Not such a bad sort of a chap, after all." He smiled at their eulogies and passed on in search of a Turkish bath. It was the same old crowd upon the streets. Strange they did not notice his moose-hide moccasins and tattered German socks. He would take a cab. And after the bath, a shave would not be bad. No, he would eat first. Steak, and potatoes, and green things, how fresh it all was. And what was that? Squares of honey, streaming liquid amber. But why did they bring so much? Ha, he could never eat it all. Shine, why certainly. He put his foot on the box. The bootblack looked curiously up at him, and he remembered his moose-hide moccasins, and went away hastily. Hark! The wind vane must be surely spinning. No, a mere singing in his ears. That was all, a mere singing. The ice must have passed the latch by now. More likely the upper hinge was covered. Between the moss-chinked roof poles, little points of frost began to appear. How slowly they grew. No, not so slowly. There was a new one, and there another, 2, 3, 4. They were coming too fast to count. There were 2 growing together, and there a third had joined them. Why, there were no more spots. They had run together and formed a sheet. Well, he would have company. If Gabriel ever broke the silence of the north, they would stand together, hand in hand, before the great white throne. And God would judge them. God would judge them. Then Percy Cuthbert closed his eyes and dropped off to sleep.